Welcome back to Fjook Enterprises YouTube channel. It's another Wednesday, so we're doing another conversations with Fjook, and today I have Michael, who's been on this channel multiple times back, to talk once again about Iron Kingdom's War Machine. I think the names are interchangeable. I could be wrong there.
It's the property is War Machine. It's set in the Iron Kingdom. Its RPG system though is called the Iron Kingdom. So make it extra confusing.
Welcome, heroes and villains, to Fjook Enterprises YouTube channel. Take a moment, relax, stop your bickering, and just enjoy the show. While we have talked about Iron Kingdoms and War Machine and War Games several times on my channel, this could be someone's first video, so why don't we start this conversation with what is Iron Kingdom's War Machine?
Absolutely. It is a tabletop miniature war game developed by Privateer Press, based out in Bellevue, Washington. It is a game where you have robots punching dinosaurs, uh, punching giant trolls, uh, all in a all as rockets fly and Tesla turrets shoot off, and brave men and women of the Iron Kingdoms face against foes, both of humankind or unnatural. There is it's swords, sorcery, and gun.
I realize we are probably going to be talking about the history because if I understand from conversations from you, the demons have invaded and destroyed a lot of the Iron Kingdoms, or at least the one that we're talking about today. But Menoth is the god who claims to created humans. Is that true?
Menoth is the creator of humans. Yes, Menoth, the god of the wall, god of civilization. He is the patriarch of the human deities, one of the oldest ones that have shape and form. Right. Uh, it is said that it's through his guidance that humanity learned how to construct walls and build the first city of Caspia, which became a beachhead for them. And as basically mostly everything else tried to eat humanity. And in fact, once the city of Caspia was built and the walls surrounded it, the worshippers of the devourer worm, considered the antithesis to Menoth, they began to gather in what's known as the Mulgore Horde, a collection of bestial folk such as Pharaoh, who are pigmen, trollkin, so human trolls, I guess is the way to describe them, um, and humans who worship the Devourer, who would later become known as the Circle of Oberon. They gathered to mic down the affront to their god, the Devourer Worm, and ensure that everything went back to nature. Didn't go so well for them.
So, when looking into Menoth, I noticed that there was a Church of Menoth and a Protector of Menoth. Are those the same thing?
Yes and no. So the Protectorate is the nation of Menites who were given parcels of land after the Signar Civil War. The Signar Civil War happened as Menites were feeling oppressed, and indeed they were at the time, by the new religion of Marrow. Marrow was was a human who ascended into godhood along with his twin sister Thamar, and together they became the god of knowledge and the god of magic. Though Marrow is more of a, I mean, if you use classic D&D alignments, he would be lawful neutral, or no, he would be be neutral good. He wants to do good for good purposes and to see the advancement of everybody. Thamar is oh boy, she is definitely evil. Neutral to chaotic evil, definitely self-serving, advancing yourself for your own purposes. Where Marrow teaches that, you know, you sacrifice yourself for the good of all, and everyone benefits. A rising tide floats all boats. That you could consider that a Marrow teaching. Thamar is, what's in it for me? Why, how can I benefit from this? So regardless, these two new religions, everyone thought, hey, that's pretty good. I get to be selfish, or I get to care about my fellow man, rather than Menoth, who says, oh, you looked covetedly at that wedding dress. You better go set yourself on fire. Report to the Scrutator. So civil war happened. Things go well, and then a peace treaty was found where the Menites were allowed to take their belongings, leave the city, and they formed the Protectorate of Menoth. So on paper, they were not allowed to have an army. They were allowed to self-govern, and because Caspia was so big, they actually got half of it, and they renamed that as Sul, which became their first capital, which was later moved. Now, the Church of Menoth is the theocratical government of the. So what's it? Severius was the last leader of the Church of Menoth. He was later killed just before the events of the harrowing. The demons came and they reaped what was owed to them. And then after that, there hasn't been a lot of information about Menoth because basically they splintered. The bunch of the different factions in Menoth kind of went their separate ways, and they were either destroyed or disappeared into the sand, or they went to a new continent to try to find peace there, because clearly Immorin, the continent they were on, wasn't doing it for them.
The demon invasion that happened, is that tied to the two new gods ascending?
100%. Part of the deal that that Thamar and Marrow made before they ascended to godhood was that they realized that humanity needed magic. Otherwise, they would never have beat the invaders that had come and had enslaved Western Immorin. So they formed a deal with the pardon me on the pronunciation of this Nonokian demons. It's in Iron Kingdoms. Well, in D&D itself, devils are lawful evil, right? And they're really sticklers to the contract. And the demons in War Machine are much similar. Different nomenclature, but similar principle, where they love forming contracts and forming deals with susceptible mortals who will, give up their immortal soul for a taste of power. Thamar didn't like that. Marrow was more than willing to give up his soul if that meant, the rest of humanity have magic, and Thamar, being the more shrewd of them, basically slapped him in the back of the head, saying, no, we don't have to give up our soul. We can give up elven soul. Because she knew where the elven gods were hiding on the material plane. And apparently, elven souls, and especially godly souls, very tasty to the demons, and so they readily made that deal. But much like every deal with the devil, in the details, because in addition to the location of where those elven gods are hiding on the material plane, they also wanted at least 1/3 of all the souls of humanity as payment for giving mankind access to magic. Because while Menoth was the father of humanity, he did not believe that mankind needed magic. He thought it was evil and it went against nature because Menoth are rules, right? Like he is the god of rules. He's the god of walls. So why are you trying to alter his reality with reality warping magic? You don't need it. You can do without it, right? It'll make you tough. And that's why I call him the patriarch, right? He's that classic toxic masculinity patriarch of you don't need to worry about it. You're tough. You'll rub some dirt on it and get back in there, right? Quit your whining. Meanwhile, literally 300 years of invasion and suppression by these Viking invaders that had come and practically enslaved them for far too long. So that is so the two gods. To get back to the long story short, two gods were directly involved in the deal and making the sacrifice of the elven gods for hiding out in the material plane.
Did humanity need magic?
But in the setting, it was needed. Magic is needed to form control systems with the warjacks that were eventually developed. Without them, without magic, you can't cortex, which are required for them to operate semi-autonomously. So the rules of the system said they had to.
Is the Protector of Menoth part of the Signa?
The nation of Signar was part of the Protectorate, but as I said before, when the Civil War happened, there was that split. And while there is trade between the two nations, it's not very well. It's not an open trade. It's more so like we need bread, so here's some diamonds. In fact, for the longest time, there were crusades that the Menites would launch, unofficial, non-government crusades. These were just people that happened to be inspired by Holy Fervor in Menoth and would, of course, happen to invade other nations such as Kador or maybe a town in Signar that had been filled with heretics, never fully sanctioned by the theocratical government of the Protectorate, because the Protectorate couldn't have an army. But if these people just so happen to be inspired by this by Menoth's Holy Spirit, well, hey, that's out of their control. They can't fully control the populace, right? Unless Signar's wanting to say that they're fully control of their populace and that anything that their civilians, that their government should be responsible for. So they always kind of couched it that layer of hands-offishness, right? Oh, it was only later when Severius put himself at the head of the Northern Crusade that it became an official government sanctioned invasion.
Speaking of Signa, while looking into it, I learned that its capital city, Caspia, was called the City of Walls. Could you go into why that is?
Certainly. Well, touched on it a little bit before. Caspia was called the City of Walls because, well, it's got massive walls. This was designed to protect the humans inside of it against the various creatures that surrounded it. These the Trollkin, once again, the human-sized trolls, the Pharaoh, and any other nasty creatures in Western Imran who want to, eat a human because, hey, we're tasty and taste good with ketchup. So these massive walls were built to keep the monstrosities out, but it protected humanity, but it also had a downside where they basically lit a signal fire, which summoned the Horde eventually. The Horde was beaten, but then not soon after, that's when they were invaded by the Orgoth. The Orgoth were the Viking invaders from out east, came across the sea and conquered most of Western Imran, except for Caspia, thanks to its massive walls. And this, of course, builds into the whole Menoth thing being the primary religion of Signar up until the ascension of Marrow and Thamar.
Wait, does that mean that Caspia predates the kingdom of Signar?
Caspia was the reason Signar was founded. You could say that. Basically, you couldn't have one without the other. It's a chicken and the egg argument, right? So.
from talking with you from the past, I'm pretty sure that Privateer Press constantly is constantly pushing forward its narrative, and at this point in time, the City of Walls has fallen. Is that correct?
Half of it has fallen. As the Protectorate was shattered after the events of the Harrowing, the leadership had abandoned its people. The largest group of survivors had fled south with Tristan, the sovereign, to Zool, one of the continents in the south there. The other primary leaders had vanished, and so there was nobody left. So any civilians or guards that were posted in Sewell, the Menoth part of Caspia, they just left, or they stayed because they had nowhere else to go. Maybe some of them went over to Caspia and surrendered, but yeah, for the most part, that the Sewell part is abandoned, and because of the heroin, because of the massive loss of life, there's just not enough people to go over there and reclaim it. Like it's such a massive city that there's still not enough people to like patrol it, to live in it, and so a lot of it has fallen into ruin. And because it's a fantasy setting, monsters have taken up the shadowy places. So undead, you know, things that lurk in the shadows there, and of course, criminal enterprises find it a good way to smuggle stuff in and out of the city for those with the means. The other side, though, Caspia is going through a massive economic boom before the Orgoth invasion 2.0. Advancement of science and technology is greatly improving the lives of the citizens, and why bother working on something that's broken down when you can improve what's already there? So that's the king's mindset right now at the onset of the fiction. Yeah, so basically work with what we got, improve it, and then we can start expansion.
Thinking about it, you've mentioned in a past video why you chose um, War Machine over Warhammer, but I could you go over again what drew you exactly to the Church of Menoth, which I think was your first War Machine army?
Well, absolutely. I was literally holding the starter boxes between Signar and Menoth in my hands, and catch up scenario. For me, I just liked the aesthetic. Honestly, I liked the rules they had, which was of sacrifice to empower others. I didn't that feeling because I mean, no matter what, you're gonna lose troops in a game. It happens, right? Sometimes the dice say no. Sometimes you lose everything and you don't kill a single model on the other side. I've had games where that's happened. Uh, but yeah, I mean, as I was raised Irish Catholic, so it hit a lot of the nostalgia part for me. Looking at Menoth, looking at their um, doctrine of fire and flames, and let God sort them out at the end. So yeah, they were my first faction, and I still got a few models. And then when Privateer Press introduced the cross factions, I because I had some models in Menoth still, I could play those cross factions, which were super fun. So yeah, it all kind of worked out. Kind of sad there's nothing out for them right now with War Machine 4th edition. But what I mean, I imagine it's a matter of time until something else comes out, and what they do have right now is pretty cool. So I just wish I had more money to buy more models.
Is it still possible for you to play Menoth in 4th edition, and do you still play Menoth?
It is still possible to play Menoth in 4th edition. There are rules for playing the legacy armies against the newer stuff. You just have to, go in with a caveat that most of the older stuff, the legacy models, they're going to get updates maybe once every 5 years, if that, if ever. I mean, there's no money in it for Privateer Press, so why would they? no one's going to buy the old models from them, and it's not very while. And so I can understand that from a business perspective. I bought those models. I got my fun out of them. It's a bit of a sunken cost to demand that the company keep updating them and make them relevant. Um, do I still play? Unfortunately, no. With COVID, that really dropped my participation. And then the final death knell was I was a full time student taking full time classes, so didn't have time. Now that I'm working full time, probably could go back. I just haven't had the motivation, and got to pay back my student loans, so that goes most of my money to buy new models. So what I'm saying is, I need some debt relief. That would be great.
So, you've been on my channel a few times. You know what my final question is. Anyone and anything you'd like to shout out at this time?
Well, actually, this time I did come prepared. The only shout out I have is for a charity that's very near and dear to my heart. In case you were wondering what I was wrestling with, I have a multitude of cats here. This one's Rue. Hi, Rue. Um, I deal with the Last Chance Cat Ranch here in Lethbridge, Alberta, and they are an amazing organization that goes out of their way to rescue as many cats as they can and put their needs first. I've adopted a couple cats from them so far, and let me tell you, these people care about kitties. So if you do too, can't go wrong with setting up some donations for them, whether it's money, food, volunteer time, anything you can do to help them. I owe my life to a cat, believe it or not, so I will always try and pay it forward.
Um, the links to the information about the charity that he mentioned will be in the description. I'm just gonna end my video by saying, at least check out the link. Donate. I would prefer you donate, but just check out the link.
Anything you could do. If not, it's all good.